What's up, y'all? Yeah, I know. Long day. I did a lot of things and came back home, and I was listening to a lot of people go live and kind of hodgepodging something together because a few things came to mind. And as you can see by the title, do we owe each other reparations? It should have been a question. It should have been a question. So, the definition of reparation that I'm going to use: the making amends for a wrong one has done by paying money to or otherwise helping those who have been wronged, right? So, I'm going to just get into the topic that way. Like, do we owe each other reparations? Before we talk about white America and white folks and just the United States of America in general, because other people was here while during slavery and Jim Crow, so in by proxy they was in on it. But let's leave them out for a second, right? Hey Devin, how you doing, Jasmine? Let's just leave that out of it. The way we treat each other, do we owe each other reparations? Um, Tell me what you think. Do the elders owe the youth reparations? Because we keep saying, and I've said it before, like the older generation left us hanging. So, um, so do they owe us quote unquote money, or help, or should they help us do certain things? Goshen, what's happening, fam? Shalom, man, shalom. Um, so should the older generation help the younger generation, right? Hope, what's happening? What's happening? And I might just make this an open panel if y'all want it, because I went live earlier, but I could talk about this topic easily, but just in case. Um, the thing about it is, we, what can the older generation do if they can't financially help, right? So can the older generation do what the generation in the past did, i.e., like look after the family, look after the kids? Young, what's happening? You know, should the older generation look after the kids? Should the older generation be transfer their knowledge to your children or their grandchildren, so that by the time that those kids become adults, they have generational knowledge? Iman, what's happening? Jacqueline, what's going on? Jay Young, what's happening? You know, because do we owe each other reparations in that sense? Because to a degree, what were certain people doing, right? Did certain people sabotage the family? Did certain people sabotage life? Henry, what's happening? Did certain people sabotage life or this, that, and the third? And I started thinking about it like, okay, um, you could say like, the civil rights era made a sacrifice. Jim Crow, prior to civil rights era, they had a sacrifice. So do they owe anybody reparations? And some of those people are still alive and well today. You know, do the elders who were Vietnam, which was also really in the civil rights era because it was like 55 to 75, the quote unquote crack era, right? Do those people owe reparations for what they did? Which I'm gonna get into that again. Big Poke Dog, what's happening? George, was good? You know, do those people like from the crack era? Because I'm gonna get into the gangsters of our community too. You know what I'm saying? Should those people owe us reparations? Do they owe for the things that they did that damaged the community, right? And when I say they owe reparations, I don't think people could just, we keep talking about us being quote unquote powerless, right? So what can they do? Can those people like start, start agriculture or something, or find or give some family land that they haven't been on or whatever? Can they do anything, right? Man, thank you, Vulnerable. Barty, what's happening? You know, Henry, I'm gonna do my best today on this. And if y'all can hear that Johnny Gill, that is the jam. That is life. But let me get to the gangsters, right? Do the gangsters in the community owe us reparations? Or do we owe the gangsters by how some of them were treated, and how they gravitated to the criminal element because they weren't necessarily taken care of. Some that to me, that's an over stereotype, because a lot of people chose the streets. A lot of vast majority of people didn't grow up in the streets per se. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like, you know, orphans or their families was gangsters, and they grew into that life. That wasn't what it was. How you doing, Faith? You know, and by the title, I keep it techie. What's good? This can be an open panel if y'all want. Um, but do the gangsters owe reparations? For all the families that was broken up, all the kids that were affected, um, people who got killed, people who got shot. You know what I'm saying? People who got, you know, oh, no, we not. I'm just asking a question. Because you don't have to necessarily give money. Like, reparations doesn't necessarily have to be money. It can be other things, but it's a way to make amends. Do you think the gangsters in the community owe Black America? You know, also, do you think so? Because they've done a lot of damage, right? And a lot of us took on that image or ideology, who kind of made it worse. So, if you took on the quote unquote gangster persona, do you owe the Black community reparations because you were just trying to get ahead or whatever, right? So this is one of the things. And if y'all in the chat, don't time nobody out. You feel me? Do not time nobody out, because I don't even like. StreamYard is different from YouTube, so some of the stuff I don't see when people get timed out on StreamYard. I really don't. So I don't even be knowing. But do the pimps and the players and the max and the prostitutes, do they owe us reparations? For the things that they did that were detrimental for us, for people having to take care of their children and have to look after their families when they get locked up or when they get killed, or or when they want their kids to be safe, and they say they did it for the money, but at the end of the day, don't have nothing to show for it. The kids don't have nothing to show for it, and the people wind up, spending a lot of their time and effort into doing these things. So at the end of the day, do pimp payment? Do they owe us reparations? You know what I'm saying? It's the thing. It's the same thing that we talk about with other things and other people, right? Do the let me see, the talented 10th, or Jack and Jill, or the bourgeoisie of our community, do they owe us reparations? Because you have to get yourself up to that level to be in there, but to a degree they don't want certain people, so, or they don't want Black people to a degree. So if the talented 10th want to hoard the resources and be in their own little bubble while the community suffers, but at the same time wants to benefit off of the community, do the talented 10th of the Black bourgeoisie owe reparations? Do we owe each other reparations? If you went to school and you got an education and you got your stuff together, you know what I'm saying? What's up, Dion? Do do we owe each other reparations for that? You know, oh well, I get you, Alana, but I'm talking about, do we owe us? Like, I get that. You know, Ray, you bring up a good question. You know, oh snap! I hate when the screen jumps like that. I really do. Third world, what's happening, fam? You know, does the church owe? Does the black church owe Black America reparations for taking, tithes and offerings and putting it in people's banks, and then not actually benefiting the community to the point where, you know the church can stand. The church is there and the area gets gentrified, or the church is there and the community that the church services don't necessarily get service properly. Does the church owe Black America reparations? The church wants you to vote, because the church is involved. Not you're supposed to separate church and state, or quote unquote, but the churches was got Black America voting Democratic anyways. So should the church be held responsible, and should the black church, owe the black community reparations? Because if we didn't get anything out of our votes, and you use your platform as a pillar to move us to do a certain thing for the betterment of America, or the Black America, then should you owe for that? Should you owe for that? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, yeah, yeah. I get what you're saying, Body, but I'm just saying for the damage within the community, not. I'm saying, do we owe each other reparations? Can we pay each other for a wrong committed? Like, I'm gonna tell you what happened. Today, this morning, I got up and I went to the gym, right? And my hand is messed up. My leg messed up too, but But I was trying to get out of the car, and I opened the door, and you know how you park next to somebody, and I open the door, and as I'm getting out, the wind blows, swings the door out, hits the car next to me, put a paint mark, dent, whatever, in the door. And in my mind, I'm like, this was an accident, but who wants to come and see their car get hit by another car per se? Then the door ding or whatever, the door ding. So what I did was, I went in the gym and I needed some ice for my hand, but I didn't have any. So I went to the gas station. I bought a bag of ice, got some ice together, went back to park, went to the counter, got a note, wrote them a note telling them what happened, and gave them my number just in case they wanted to get it fixed. It's on me, because even though it was an accident, it's on me. And I thought about that, like, we don't do that for each other. Like, when we ding each other in life, we don't do that. And while I'm working out, they text message me, and it was like, that was real classy. I appreciate you doing that. So I'll just text message back. He's like, I just want to know, if you want me to fix it, I'm responsible for it. I got it, no problem. It's like, don't even worry about it. Have a good weekend, like, because people have done that to me. You know what I'm saying? Gab, what's happening? And like I said, this is an open panel if y'all want, because this is about a topic I don't think I can be the only person to talk about. But so, Gab, you're welcome to come by. Faith, you're welcome to come by. It's not like anybody. Y'all welcome to come by. Matter of fact, I keep saying it's open, but that's stupid to say it's open and not put the dang on thing in the chat. That is dumb. Hold up. Okay. Because the thing about it is, do we owe each other? Because and I'm gonna make it spicy for a second. It's the same thing we have this gender divide. Do we owe each other reparations? You know, for the people who've been good to you, for the men who've been good to the women, and those women didn't reciprocate, should they have reparations to the guys who are solid guys that come into their lives in the future? For the men who've had good women in their past and they did those good women wrong, should you pay reparations to make sure you don't do that to the good women you meet in the future? Like, do we owe each other reparations? Do we owe each other that? You feel me? You know, so that's the thing. Like, there comes a point where we got to ask, what's going on? Because what it seems like to me is we got a lot of problems and a little amount of solutions. No, I take that back. We got a lot of problems and we got a lot of solutions. But when it comes to the solutions, few people want to put in the effort. So if we don't want to put in the effort, should it be mandated that we owe each other reparations? Like, you owe us. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, these ninjas owe me. You owe them ninjas too. You know what I'm saying? Because I was thinking about it with the sense of, for like on one end, the women that talk about deadbeat dads. So should for the women who actually have deadbeat fathers in their lives, or no good husbands, right? Should the men should black men owe black women reparations for that? Because you've been qualified. There was definitely a deadbeat. That guy was definitely no good. You got played. So do other men owe you reparations? Because with because we're saying the same thing to a degree. You know, for all the guys who got done dirty or put on child support or divorced and gotten taken stuff taken from us or whatever, are we like, you know what? I'm owed reparations, man. I'm owed. Like, yo, you know, I didn't pay for 57 million dates. You know what? You need to fry some chicken, baby. Like, I'm owed at least fried chicken for 2 years, right? I don't even eat fried chicken like that. You trying to kill me. But baked chicken for 2 years, right? I'm owed some gumbo. You know, like, even with the respect part, right? Do we have respect for one another? I'm sorry, y'all. Art, Keyshawn, my bad. Do we have that type of respect for each other? Like, and I'm not even talking about, fitness mom. We're saying Keith, my bad. What's happening? You know what I'm saying? So now we're playing this game, about, well, yeah. And I'm just saying that's a good point, fam. That is a very good point. That is a very good point. Ty, what's happening? Ray, what's good? Because at this particular point, and the Honda Civic Hybrid, you are hilarious. Because at this point, I gotta ask, say you on a respect. Let's start with the basis of respect, right? How many times have we disrespected each other? How many times have we been disrespected by our people? You know, men and women alike, you know, young and old. How many times have people disrespected us to the point where, that's who they is. They having a rough day. You got to let that go. You got to give them a pass. This is what happened. Um, you don't know what's going on in my life. You don't know my life, right? Do those people who are constantly lashing out, do those people owe people reparations? Do you owe other people and be like, to the point where, okay, you know, oh man, we reading comment, man. I'm slow sometimes, you know. That's what I'm talking about too, MGTOW. You know what I'm saying? What do you tell a woman with two black eyes? She's owed reparations. You know what I'm saying? And she should have bobbed and weaved. You know, you should have you know, but yeah, if a woman is beaten like that, she definitely is owed reparations. You know, a woman who's battered and a woman who fights all the time, they're two different women. So yeah, so if she gets beat or whatever, yeah, she's owed reparations. Just like the guys, when you date a woman who likes to always be swinging her hands and ba 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 ba, she always getting mad and cussing and she would be verbally abusive. You know what I'm saying? I think she you owe reparations because I think what winds up happening in our community is it's so easy to do each other dirty and everybody gets to walk away. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's walking away. Everybody walks away scot free when they do somebody dirty. Sleeping on alternative energy, I don't even know what that means. I hope it ain't what you think. Faith added one to the, should bad parents. Yeah, bad parents should pay reparations for giving people a bad childhood. See, how you gonna make up for that? I was a bad parent, so now I owe you. Some of us might be owed by our parents. I might owe my kid. He ain't getting nothing. Nah. But this is one of the things you got to ask. Like, even when bad parents, you do bad parents who have kids that they overfeed and they're obese. And now the kids have issues. You know what I'm saying? At a young age, the parents who don't watch their children and other people watch them or nobody watches them and they don't really read and write on a good level. Do they owe their children reparations? Do they owe the community reparations because the community has to deal with their bad parenting? Now I can even be a little bit hold on. He said you can't make up for it. Wow, that's interesting. You know, this dude and then yeah, and scrimp scampies. Yeah, they have we have to ask that question. Matter of fact, do we owe reparations for do we owe each other reparations for female empowerment in our community with the feminist overtone when you want to empower the girls but cut the boys off at the knees? Do you owe reparations for that? And if women will say, back in the day we were forced we couldn't depend on the men and we have to go out and get it on our own. So are you owe reparations for because you felt like the men were not dependable and you had to do it on your own? Or was the empowering the girls your reparations? You get what I'm saying? Do we owe each other reparations? Because this is becoming for me, it's an interesting question because what winds up happening is we don't want to talk about. We could talk about sex, we could talk about dating, blah 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 blah, right? So on and so forth. But everybody wants to get something for nothing. Everybody wants something for the free, for the low price of free 99. And because you want it for free 99, everybody is entitled and everybody feels owed. So okay, if you're owed, cool. So let's run down a list of things that can be done to you that the community owes you reparations for. But here's the kicker. If you do some of those things to people, you owe the community for reparations too. You owe the community reparations. Got like a little reparations pot. You remember like a swear jar? When people used to have a swear jar and you put the money in the swear jar, and then people benefit at the end of the day. This is part of the issue. What's up, James? So now, hold up. I got you, young.
What's up? What's up, L.A.R? Can you hear me?
Hold up. Speak up, fam.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but you're low, or is it me? Let me cut this music off. Say something else.
Testing, testing. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you low.
I might be low. Maybe put my headphones in or
No,
something.
no, 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 no. I take that back. I take that back. I take that back. Hold on, because I got my mic. My mic is on, but I'm on the. So let me see if I can hear you in this. Speak up. Say not something now.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's my volume. I got the head. I had the headset plugged into the mic. So okay, my bad.
I got the Blue Yeti. Yeah, I just bought that actually yesterday. I was adjusting it. Yeah.
So what you got, fam?
We just sort of put my 2 cents in, and I'm about to get out, man. But I appreciate you allowing me here. Um, this is my opinion on this. And far as like, do we owe reparations with each other, like in the black community? I mean, me personally, I say no. And yes, I understand what we go through. Far as like, we sometimes we kill each other and all that type of stuff, and the negative things that goes on. Like we can say like baby mothers, sometimes they can mismanage, the child support, and like that can arguably be like, okay, well, shouldn't they pay reparations to their child? As far as like their college, because as they grow up, they mismanage the money. Now they don't have enough for their kids' college. You know, I heard some arguments on that. I heard like just little various of things though. But like, I just think that as far as like for to the progression of black people, this it won't be good to point the fingers. I don't think it be pretty much in the blame game, if that makes sense. We need to kind of like literally move forward. Every race has their own problems, and I just think that we kind of needed to dismiss that and just really focus on more what Congress can do for us, because they always like, I believe like maybe $1.5 trillion or something like that. Over 400 years and slavery and the things that we have encountered. So, but I just think that we shouldn't be holding each other accountable as far as the reparations. So I don't know how you feel about that or people in the chat, but I just kind of want to say that.
Like me personally, because I just this came to me not too long ago.
Hmm.
I personally think we do. Not for
Okay.
the, but I don't like when I'm talking about reparations. Reparations can be monetary, and it could be. It's like a tithe. Tithing can be monetary, and it doesn't have to be monetary. Hold on, my bad. Keep it techie. My bad, fam. I see you in the chat. My bad. Hold up. But what I mean by that is, um, I think that what winds up happening is we have to have some type of system to pay each other for doing each other dirty, because all this letting everything slide is not working.
Okay. So like far as like doing each other dirty, you mean like when people abandon their children, that type of stuff. When children are being sexually abused, those type people should be like held accountable. So like, do you have any type of like what's like your process of thing? Like, do you know like ways that those type of people should be punished? Because I just think
Like,
that, yeah, go ahead.
okay, before I do, keep it techie. I'm gonna say this, and then you got it. All right.
All right.
Okay. Like that's why I made the reference to like a swear jar, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
we put down all the things that people do that are not tolerated. And if you do those things, you owe. You have to have some type of atonement, some type of recompense, some type of reparations. You have to do something to right that wrong. If you can't do it with the person themselves, you have to do something to community. You got to, you got to have some type of community service behind you. Because if we keep just doing each other dirty, everybody just walks away. It creates more and more resentment, more and more drama, more and more this, that, and the third. Just like when you
Hmm.
talked about this country owing us. If the country keeps saying, we don't owe y'all, we should just start from here. Start. It's always going to be an underlying beef because of the idea. Let's just start from right here. And it's like, really, start from right here? Oh, that's a nice conversation, you know. But that's my thought about it. I'm gonna keep it shorter because keep it taking. You got it, fam.
What's up, L.A.R? What's up, brother on the panel? Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear
Yes.
you.
Okay. So I guess my take on it, uh, I mean, once you start going down to that level, when it comes to reparations, so to speak, I mean, you start getting into the weeds, in my opinion,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
and the reparations should start from the top because I believe at the lower level, yeah, it's F stuff that happens every day in the community that has nothing to do with the situation that we've been put in. But um, it also does relate back to that. A lot of it does relate back to that, like as far as like the drugs being put in our community, the guns, all that stuff or whatever. So the reparations, in my opinion, should start from the top, and because a lot of these guys probably wouldn't have picked up these drugs or guns and everything if they had more opportunities. Uh, so
Like,
I mean, that's my opinion. You know what I'm saying? And I know when you I mean, it's a lot of people that do a lot of stuff, like messed up stuff, um, at regardless, and that's with any race. You know what I'm saying? It's certain things that just happen. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like Darwinism. You know what I'm saying? I mean, people get killed, for various reasons. You know what I'm saying? Um,
That's yeah.
but some of it, a lot of it, the reason our community is like further behind other communities is because of the situation we be put into, and I think the reparations would help from the top, starting at the top down.
Okay. Like, okay, let me ask this and then Gab, I got you. I say Gabe, my bad. Um, just like when you brought up Darwinism, right? We have this weird thing of it's survival of the fittest until I'm not the strongest on the block no more. And and I get what you're saying, start from the top down. So if the government does it, then if the government does it, do the people who in our community that were detrimental, do they owe the community also? Or is it just okay? The government did it now. Now everybody get a clean slate because most of the people I knew that were in the streets and dealt drugs and were criminals, they wasn't criminals because they had other options. They just were destructive and young. You know, like because I said it earlier, a few of the people that I knew grew up in like gang affiliated families, and
hmm
they just grew up into the thug life and the gang life. Most of the people I knew that got in the gangs, they just they were just people with too much time on their hands and reckless, and they couldn't stand on their own 2 feet, so they clicked up. You know, that was just my experience to a degree. But we get back to it. Gab, what's up?
Peace. What's up, bro?
What's happening?
Ain't nothing, man. Interesting question you raised here with the reparations, man. Do we owe each other reparations? And you were saying, uh, let me make sure I got it right. To one another, the male and female, or the community within. Are we talking about the black community? Do we owe each other? Like,
Well,
what?
from old do the elders, older youth, do bad parents, older community in general, because the kid, it quote unquote it takes a village. You know what I'm saying? Do the men and women owe each other for disrespecting each other, using each other? Does the church owe the
Right,
community for collecting all this money, but never, the community still sucks? Does the
right.
gangsters owe the community because they perpetuate all, they of the destruction that they've created? Like it's not just the men and women, but yeah, you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah. I got exactly what you're saying. The short answer is yes, man. To the extent that I think. whenever you an intelligent person, whenever you assess an issue and you've done all of the your own spiritual work, where you take a look at yourself, that real look at yourself, and you're honest about what you contributed and what you fucked up in your life, or what you held back from, even if it wasn't intentional, you just chose not to participate. So in acts of selfishness, you're not contributing and making things better, because for whatever reason you just felt like it wasn't your job or your responsibility. So in my estimation, that an intelligent person will look at the his position, his or her position, and make decisions that by observing their own life, what role they can play in making things better. And see, this is all going to have something to do with the kind of person you are and what you're made of. You know, you know, some people, bruh, I think might be that cutthroat, and they don't care. Each and every man unto himself. But that's just not the way I observe the world. The world has always been that, of a collective. It starts off with individuals maybe looking out for themselves, but when you say that, that's really not even true. It was your parents looking out for you. It was somebody when you were young always there looking out for you. So the world has always operated as somebody looking out for you in one way or another. Maybe it didn't do a good job, but something was there as some kind of safety net to ensure that you survive. And so, since you observe that's the way that the world works, bro, I'm saying yes. Like we owe it to ourselves to make shit better. We're not doing it. And so, I mean, some of us are not caring to do it or caring about the situation. So for me, bro, I give a damn, man. So I reflect that in the way that I conduct myself with other people. I think we need what's that? What's that noise?
Faith, mute up a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. You owe us mute reparations right now.
That was good. That was good, but yeah. So not to take up too much time on your panel, man. But yeah, bro. If you a person made out, bro, you got to learn how to love something, bro. You know, and it should be something. Number one, definitely learn to love yourself and forgive yourself for the shit that you did wrong. So when we say, yeah, do we owe each other a reparation? I ain't saying go look at your dad or the people on your block and try to beat them down. You know what I'm saying? So, this whole cycle, the way energy works, man, you got to learn how to forgive people in their ignorance when they were doing things against you in their ignorance, so that you can have the energy to move forward, the right kind of energy. Because if you hold the energy where motherfuckers was doing something to you when you was young, your energy it tends to be the same energy that they had. So now you on some kind of get back, even if you're doing positive shit, just so that you can look back and say, look at you niggas down in the hood now. Your energy is still that of their energy. It's not positive production other than for yourself. You've actually became them by being selfish. And so, this is spiritual work, bro. Your question is very spiritual in nature, in my question, in my estimation.
Yeah,
And I yield right there. I yield.
Yeah. You got it, Jay, because I know you came in and came out. And then Faith, you unmute when you're ready. Uh-oh. Young, what's happening? I'm my bad. I was thinking about young Jay. I'm bugging. My bad, fam.
So L.A.R.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Then I got to do something about you. I just want to say I agree with the brother what he said too. And I completely understand where you're coming from. But yeah, I just feel like as far as African Americans, we've been through so much, and we just can't just go back and feed into the negative and energy. Like, oh, okay, well, this person did me wrong. This person did that. We just learn from it, and then we just utilize what we have, and just continuously to progress, because you keep going back and just blaming people for what happened to you. You're not going to never ever, achieve. I like this and look forward to in the future. That's we got to continuously to move forward. And I just feel like for 2020 and beyond, for our race to be economically strong, we have to go from the top. You have to understand, like, okay, where the powers are coming from, who's making all these executive decisions. Because you keep going to the Lord, man, or like our people around in our communities. Oh man, you keep terrorizing our community. I mean, only thing the best way is be a mentor. Use the reparations that we have, if we're going to get reparations, and talk and mentor the people, and mentor the young kids to be somebody, instead of just terrorizing their own community. It's all a huge paradigm shift, and I feel like the best way to get there is that we can't blame each other. We can't just say, hey, you owe me. Oh, you did my daddy wrong, you did my mama wrong, you did my sister wrong. No, educate them. Hey, we forgive them, keep moving forward, but we got to look at the bigger picture. It's always going to set us back if we continuously feed that that negative perspective on things. So that's that's my that's my uh that's my opinion on it. I don't know if you want to agree with it, but it's time for us to really build back to our communities, and we just have to be forgiving with one another, like the brother said. That's the ultimate way to really move forward, man.
You know,
So
okay.
yeah,
What you said, I get it. Now, I don't agree with it, but I'm not one of the people that you got to agree with me, even if you on here. That ain't my style. So I get what
yeah,
you're saying, though. To push back on that and keep it technical, you can answer this because I know you're more disagreement with this topic also. When we look at other groups of people, us societies in America and outside of America, the way that they do business is not with forgiveness. They do business like, this is what happened, pay up. We'll be square when you pay up. They don't say, let it go. You know, you can't, you can't tell your electric company let it go. A bank can't tell a business, the business can't tell a bank to let it go. And that trickles down into their actual society, where the people in their society want to say that they are more ethical because they don't let it go. They say, look, this was wrong. You got to make this right. And I will fight you, whether physically or in a courtroom, to make this right, because the principle stands. But that's my point. Keep it taking. What you got?
Nah, I mean, the only thing I can add to that, is kind of a slippery slope, so to speak, because I mean, I lived in Afghanistan for about 4.5 years, and the way they handle, issues, you know, oh, you killed my daddy, you know what I'm saying? It's forever gonna be, you know, I'm trying to get back at your family because of that. It doesn't matter who it is. It could be 3 generations down the line. Uh, and they'll just keep going and going and going. It just never stops. And then it ends up being a never ending cycle of, especially when you start getting into violence. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if that's making sense. I mean,
No, I get it.
it's
I definitely get it. I get what you're saying about the culture. But what I'm so my count sorry, my counter question to that would be, so what if the person who killed somebody's family member is like, look, we got a family member that's going to do what it takes to make it right with y'all family? Is it still going to go on like that? No. Well, in my
yeah,
opinion, no.
yeah, I get you.
You know, Gad, Faith.
Man, that last part, bro. Go ahead, Faith. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, well, I'm not going to be on here too much because I'm cooking, as you can see. But I just
Mm-hmm.
wanted to jump in here real quick because, see, you guys are making pretty good points here. But what you guys are missing out on, look at how other societies handle people that kind of mess up in their communities. Like, we're going to look at the dominant society. Like, when their miscreants mess up in their communities, they have a little something that you call community service, right? So with community service, it's basically they're giving reparations back to their community for what it is that they did to mess up. So when you're asking people to make right wrongs that they have pretty much put onto the community, that's exactly what it is community service. So you can call it reparations, community service, it's all the same thing.
Wait,
And with
Yeah,
that,
that's
before I finish this, well, um, since black women have been so mean to black men, they asked if you're gonna be cooking for the chat as your reparations. Is that your community service?
that's justice right there. That's
see that
coming in the
that's
spirit of what she was
blasphemy.
talking about. Babe, you go, yeah, you got to lead with your own shit right there.
Yeah, they fake it. They fake it.
I want some red beans and rice. That's my meal for the chat.
No. See, I wasn't the woman that burnt the steak last week. So you got to go get the lady that burnt the steak and make her make reparations for burning that steak.
You see this? You see how y'all quick to jump out of reparations when you gotta pay? See this? This is the problem I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
that was a good point too that you made right there. When it's time for your turn to pay, we want the principles of forgiveness and shit like that to take place.
Motherfucker,
Hey, can I say this one
yeah.
thing though?
Do you think? Do you think?
No, I just want that to add to what y'all was talking about earlier because I forgot to kind of respond to it. Dealing with the gangs and I guess the single motherhood issue. I mean, uh, what was that? Some that you guys always talk about, what the '95 crime bill, and as well as in the '60s, how men were kind of forced out of the homes and all that stuff. So,
Mm-hmm.
what a lot of these knuckleheads would have been created, and I know that's kind of like a fantasy question because it is what it is right now, but would they? I mean, would the issues of some of those people doing people wrong, would they be there if if a lot of those things didn't happen? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you know what's interesting about that is we look at it like when people say from the 60s up, there, 60s to maybe even the 80s, right? I was raised by the pimps and the hustlers in the streets and all. That's who I looked up to. Well, see, here's the problem with that. The vast majority of those people, they act as though they didn't go to school. See, we're not talking about the 1910s to like the 40s and 50s when people like could drop out. You get what I'm saying? Around the 60s, you couldn't do that. So these people act like when they was kids, they just was off playing hooky somewhere, raised by a pimp and a gangster. That wasn't really the case. A lot of these people's families worked at plants and worked jobs, but they gravitated to pimps and hustlers because that's who they could see when they got outside of school, who was chilling. They didn't have a job.
Mm-hmm.
Them kid, we talking about the same era that kids got to be home when the street light come on, but they was raised by the pimps and the hustlers and the gangsters. When do the gangsters and the pimps and the hustlers really do most of their work? At night. So a lot of time we glorify stuff, but we really didn't take a deep look into it because we thinking about Harlem Nights the beginning of the movie with Harlem Nights when Eddie Murphy character as a kid was running his cigarettes in the middle of the night because he was an orphan. That wasn't the 60s. That wasn't the 70s. That wasn't the 80s. If you ran to get cigarettes, you ran to get cigarettes from your granddad, and your grandmama, and you brought them back, they change. That, you wasn't really running the streets for the G's like that. But my bad.
Well, L.A.R.
Yeah.
So I was going to add this too. So what I'm so passionate about, as far as taking all the way to the top, is that I've researched. I'm from Detroit, right? And so we lost over 166,000 homes due to taxation. Michigan has one of the second highest rates as far as taxes, property taxes, and the mayor Mike Duggan, they were all over like protesting today. It was a lot of thousands of Detroiters gathered up and protesting against this. And I'm looking like this is a significant, huge jump in a wealth gap between black people and whites. 40, I think it's like 49% of African Americans own their homes in America, compared to whites, it's like 75%. Hispanics, it's like 50 something percent. So I mean, it's a huge significant wealth gap. And then I was reading Color of Law, talks about redlining. And I'm thinking about all the stuff that's been going on in history. I really feel like, hey man, we don't got time to be, bickering at our brothers. Like we need to get this money and secure generational wealth for our people. That's my initial passion. So I just want to know, like, I don't know if you know about this information, but what can you say about that? Like, do you still stand on like, hey, our own people still owe us reparations?
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna give it to Gab and keep it techie about what you just said. One of the biggest reasons why we don't own as many homes as we could is because people sold those homes. People sold those homes and didn't get property in exchange for the homes. The other reason is succession, where people, when you don't have a will, when you have a will, and and siblings fight over things,
Mm-hmm.
that. So even that, it'll partially make me pose the question. The family owes people, because some of these homes, just like Detroit, had Detroit, say in the last 10 years, was kind of like New York was in the 80s when they were selling the brownstones for $1. Now they worth $1 million. You get what I'm saying? That's because I remember Detroit had this thing where you could buy a house for like $30 or something, like maybe 17 years
Yeah,
ago.
yeah, we still, they're very inexpensive
Yeah.
now, but yeah.
So that's part of the gentrification, but you got to have the money or the skill to refurbish a home. So that's a whole nother thing. You get what I'm saying? So I get what you're saying. I definitely understand it, but I think that's part of the problem, that we don't, we talk, when you talk about generational wealth, a lot of our generational wealth, there's the part that white people messed up. Because I've talked about it before. Like my family in Louisiana owned a lot of land and oil. And when my great grandfather died, this is like grandfather, whatever, like the family's so damn big. When he died, I didn't understand why my great grandmother was living in the projects. She was living in the projects because she got ran out of the city when he died. So she had to hide in the projects. So, I get generational wealth being stolen that way, but I also get it being stolen from family members who, inherit a business and they sell off the business. They inherit a house and they sell off the house. They inherit a lot of money and they decide, you know what, I'm gonna ball out. So do those type of people owe reparations? Because we'll say that the baby boom was messed up. So that means if you messed up, you owe somebody. You know what I'm saying? Uh-oh. You got it. Keep it techie, Jim. Uh-oh. Yeah. You working, but I don't know if, I think you borging.
Yeah, I can't hear him.
No, techie's on mute. That's what that is. I thought that was you that was borging. Like, okay, let me ask you this. If I was your family member, right? And I own, and my father owned 4 or 5 houses in Detroit, right? And we were family. So you thinking, okay, they own 4 or 5 houses. They're gonna do something responsible, and the family's gonna benefit from it. And I decide I sell 4 or 5 houses. And this has happened in my own family. I get a nice apartment, a new $50,000-$100,000 car, and a bunch of jewelry. And now there's no rental property, no nothing. No, you ass out, and now you were looking to actually benefit from that, because part of the inheritance was that y'all were supposed to benefit.
From the houses.
Should I just ride off into the sunset and then we cool?
So
no,
you basically,
I definitely understand what. Oh, go ahead.
My bad. So basically saying, well, I do believe you should be accountable. I mean, for what you've done, but we talking about a whole global thing, like far as reparations, like it's like micromanaging our own people in a way just to get this money. Now, that's more on the legal way. It's kind of hard to answer that question, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can kind of sue your family member for that type of stuff, or just, put some restrictions on what he can do. That makes sense.
You can't sue.
You can't.
Well, one thing I could say to that, I don't know if you guys can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Well, I mean, still with those families, I guess, or people that had to sell off some people probably did that just to do it, but some people that had to sell off their land or whatever, to take the money to actually try to do something with it, I guess, in a different town because they were ran out by whoever. You know what I'm saying? Would they have done that if they were getting, paid the right wages and all that stuff could they have kept that house or whatever that got passed down? You know what I'm saying? I don't know if I'm making sense.
Okay, I think I get what you're saying. Like, I know of a story recently. Father died. He had 2 sons and a daughter. So the daughter wound up inheriting 2 houses. The father told the sons, y'all grown men, whatever, I'm going to give it to your sister. Sister just loses 1 house because she doesn't want to pay the taxes on it. Then the other house she lives in. And then what happens again? She doesn't want to pay the taxes on it. She loses that one. And now she's living in an apartment. And the brothers are hot as a firecracker because what? And it's in an area that they re-gentrifying. So imagine a house that they bought for $30,000 in the 50s and 60s. You got 2 of them. And the area they're in now, because the plot of land it's on, they could probably go for anywhere between 200 flat or 375. So you didn't pay $4,000 or $5,000 taxes for a couple years in a row, and you lost potentially $500,000 in cash because it's real estate, and it was already paid off. So that person, and you got, and what I mean is, this woman has children and she has brothers. You get what I'm saying? There's a whole family. So $500,000 just left the family's generational wealth, just like that. Nobody needs to owe for that. No, you don't think anybody owes anything for that?
I think a bigger portion should, like, if reparations come down from the government, a bigger portion of the person that actually lost the property, or it has to be some type of consequences for the people that actually, I don't know, if unless it was some type of foul play, but because I've heard of people getting ran off of property because of white folks coming around and you got to get off this land and taking it back from them. But if it's at their own fault, then I guess as the money trickles down, part of it, because it's her fault at the end of the day, should go to the rest of the family.
True.
I don't know. I don't know, because that's why I say it's kind of like getting into the weeds, because it's so many different scenarios you could throw out there that are like that. You know what I'm saying?
That's kind of why I'm making this. Because when we talk about our community, we want it to be prosperous in the future. And part of that is being able to handle our own business. And to be able to handle our own business, the buck got to stop somewhere. And it's so much that's been done that we kind of let slide, that the reason why our generation start from scratch over and over and over again is because the buck never stopped nowhere. It's always let it ride. You know, like the things I'm talking about when I'm saying these things, these are scenarios, but these are real life scenarios that I witnessed. You get what I'm saying? Like in my family, outside of my family, around my family, take into consideration. A kid has an accident, then they get an annuitized payment because of what happened to them as a child, until they're an adult. By the time they get to college, their parents have had 50 cars, 50 trips, couple of houses, and now this kid becomes an adult, not a dime. Kid knows why they got all this stuff and assume that the parents was looking out for them. Assume that they was putting money aside for them. But this kid, who they're the one who the accident happened to, they're the one who the money was supposed to go to, for over a decade have watched their parents spend the money up. You get what I'm saying? So she can't say the lawsuit didn't pay her because she was paying what she was owed. But do her parents owe her?
I still think it's. Oh, go ahead.
My bad. Yeah, I was gonna say, well, L.A.R. That's more of a. I think he was talking about before it starts from home, man. I mean, that's a. It's just kind of hard to answer that, man, because like I said, micromanaging people's spending habits, and if they're financially stable or anything, man, because you got people who, like I said, mismanage their rent, they go in and gamble it and stuff like that. And those type of individuals, should they get reparations? I'm just saying, like, I mean, we don't know, man. People do emotional spending and all that stuff, and it is unfortunate too that if children have to grow up like that, and next they got to take student loans, and that it's messing up their credit. You got some parents, they put their child's name on the bill, that type of stuff, and they feel like, man, well, I got this unnecessary debt. But I'm just looking at more of an economic wise, like in a more an economic way, like, yeah, and people need to be, like I said, be accountable. Only thing is I can think of is those type of people who are financially irresponsible, maybe they can get smaller portions, of the reparations.
Well, mind you,
Yeah.
I'm not even talking about the reparations with the government. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not. I'm talking about, do we owe each other for playing each other? Because reparations in essence is you paying somebody back what you owe them from doing them wrong.
Right.
So I'm saying, do we owe each other for doing each other wrong?
I mean, I think. I mean, we all know those other kids that wasn't really taking school seriously. And wasn't doing what they needed to do in order to learn stuff. And then also we have to look at the educational system. Um, certain things are not afforded, as far as I could tell, in the from what I've seen and what I've experienced, as far as the Black educational system, if that's the thing. I mean, there's no financial literacy being taught. And I mean, and I don't want to make it sound like it's an excuse. I mean, because that's why I totally brought up the people that are not, taking things seriously, taking light of whatever schooling that's offered to them. And that's why I believe, you know, reparations as well. And I know you're not trying to talk about that. That's fine. I mean, you're looking at the lower level, but um, the reparations should include some type of educational programs, because there are, kids out there that weren't afforded the opportunity to learn financial responsibility, how to actually manage your stuff, how to actually do your taxes properly, and all that. I mean, and like I said, I don't want it to sound like an excuse because I mean there are those people out there that just don't take things seriously, and that's kind of where it goes back to what you were saying earlier about um, um, people not I'm trying to think of the word to use.
Atonement.
Well, never mind. I can't think of the word. Yeah, it'll probably come to me in a second. But that's I guess my response for it.
Well, like, okay, now, of course, I mean, y'all probably been, you kept Techie, I didn't see you around, and young, I know y'all been in the manosphere around for a minute, right?
Yes.
Part of what the men are saying is what the issue between the men and the women is you're not acting right, and you're not acting right, so I can't deal with it. And if you act right, we got a different situation, right? But the women are saying you guys are quote unquote powerless, so we're not gonna respect you. But what winds up happening is when we put this on the table, if you deal with a guy who has power, you still not gonna respect him. So now we're at a point, just in my opinion, where we're dealing with a bunch of people who want something for nothing. And if you want something for nothing, you've probably been raised to want something for nothing. So we got a generation of people who are just entitled. And because you're entitled, you don't think you owe anybody anything. You think everybody owes you. So whatever you did that was dirty, it don't count. It's irrelevant. So now it's like, okay, if all black men are terrible and I go around giving black women $1 million, are we square? Or they gonna spend $1 million and say, you black men are still powerless, you owe me more. You get what I'm saying? That's why I'm saying to a degree, like when we was talking about the streets and the church and stuff, that's why I was to a degree saying what I was saying, because I've ran into a few guys in my life who could take that charge with the same amount of energy that they committed the crime with. So if you can't do both, don't do it at all. Because you got to accept, if I do this wrong, I will pay this consequence. In our community, if we do a certain wrong, it seems like there is no consequence. You know, I might be wrong, but hey, y'all just let me know what you think. And before y'all go, because I see you thinking, I did, for anybody, because somebody just said something about Trump, right? I don't know if y'all knew this. I did early voting on the 28th. This might wind up being nationwide. When I got to the poll, they asked me which party was I with. So I can't. So if I vote Republican or Democrat, it's just gonna give me the whole one side ticket. Maybe you know how normally they used to give you could say you could say you're voting one, but they open the whole ticket up. They only open up half.
Wow. So
just so y'all know, if y'all go voting, that might happen because we all got the same damn system, really.
But I keep that. That's another discussion, yeah. So okay, so L.A.R, can you summarize what you were saying? I mean, I was listening, but what you wanted to answer?
Okay, let me see. I'm gonna try to make it a little bit more jarring.
Yeah, I just want to answer it right. That's all.
No, if we have a community that's entitled but don't owe nobody nothing, this is gonna continue to happen.
Okay.
You know, because we only care if it happened to us, which I think is a bit sociopathic. But that's the gist of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm saying that's the thing. Like, only thing I can answer is just like that's like an individual problem. Like, I know what you stated before with the manosphere. We talk about the relationships between black men and black women. We blame black women for doing this and doing that. But we all have roles. Like the father is supposed to be the disciplinary, mother's nurturer, and we got to think about too in our stats. Like, I believe it's like over 70%
Mm-hmm.
we have single mothers in our households, and that's really a lot of kids are growing up in unstable households, man, with not
Right.
a nuclear family, and that can significantly impair their decisions on doing different things, and especially like men acting emotionally, not thinking logically on certain things because they taken on the emotional tactics of their mother or their grandmother or their aunt, so they're not really seeing the male presence. So we got to talk about those things as well. And everything starts at home first, man. Education start from homeschooling, but then again we got to talk about the cost of living. Can a lot of mothers afford to send their children or to have to homeschool their children? Because you need two sources of income coming in at least. you know do we have enough marriages? I mean, it's a lot of those things. Like, we have to kind of rebuild. I talk about this in my panel with BMT. We have to really, really rebuild
Mm-hmm.
like the family structure. I think L.A.R. That's the only way. If we can kind of just like that's the base of it. So we don't have to worry about like, oh, okay, well, it can kind of negate the fact like, okay, eliminate most of like, okay, you owe me this, you owe me that because you didn't do what you were supposed to do. So that's my thing is,
But
it's more.
okay, I get you.
Yeah.
It, like divorce is a what? You owe me.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying? Like that's what divorce is. Like divorce is reparations for this not working out.
You're right.
You know, and I like even with the single mothers, is the stereotype is normally with single mothers that one of them, if their family is taking care of their quote unquote kid, they're not even doing nothing for their family. It's so many single mothers out here. They mama don't get nothing. Techie, I know you fell off. You got it, man.
Nah, you good.
Oh.
I appreciate you letting me back on. 'Cause my phone was tripping. But nah, I kind of gotta agree with what old boy just said. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. I don't know your name, man.
I think Tech is
Uh,
on mute. Can't hear him.
No, he here. He
Yeah.
here.
Okay.
Techie.
yeah.
Come in and
Drop off
come.
again.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. He was here. I could hear him. You couldn't.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's what's going on.
That happens sometimes.
Yeah, I live stream. But yeah, you kind of understand what I was talking about. Bringing that up. I just, we preach that a lot. Like the family structure, but kind of need to address that.
Like, okay, let me ask this.
Yeah.
So if we just all start from ground zero, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do the people who are more successful owe the people who are less successful? Or should they look out for? I don't say they owe them. Should they look out for the people who are less successful?
If they want help, yes, I believe they should make the efforts to attempt to help. Yes.
But if we all start from ground zero,
So if we all came from the same neighborhood, right? Is somebody made it, think they're obligated to help out the same people that they grew up with. I mean, I just that's another discussion. Personally, yes, I would do it, and I still kind of do it to this day. It can be a little. It don't even have to be money. It can be a little as sending encouragement or starting different programs and funds. And yes, we can bring up like when Nipsey Hussle died and all this stuff. You got people who was taken advantage of. They gave back to their community, but we got to kind of eliminate the mindset of like, I'm successful. Hey, you got to get it on your own, like I did.
okay.
Yeah,
I think that
I
Techie,
agree with that.
can y'all
Can
hear
y'all
each
hear
other now?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, because and that's the and see and the reason
Hold
why I
on, hold
say
on,
this
hold on.
because
Young, can you hear Techie now?
yeah, I can hear Techie
Okay,
loud and
cool.
clear.
That's all. That's all.
I'm gonna wrap this. The reason why I said it is because as if you have wisdom and stuff, you should share it. You know, that's just evil if it's just keeping something, you know, and that you know that individual needs to hear, but you still complaining about their misfortunes or what they're doing. You have to be that shining light to contribute to society if you want change. Martin Luther King did it. You know, many other individuals have done it. I was reading William Washington Brown. He started like his own bank in the 1880s and stuff like that, man.
Mhm.
And it was very successful, I believe, until like early 1900s, and it kind of like went out of business. But he took time to build something for his people, you know. And I just think that no matter if I make like millions of dollars, I don't have to live in the hood, but I can still go back and be like, hey, you know, let me help out and create a technology program. Let me create, you know, this type of school. Let me build something for my people so they can at least have an initial foundation to get where they need to be. You know, I don't have to hold their hand, but I can at least set the stone. Like, okay, if you want to get where I'm at, this is the type of path you need to go on. This can at least help you. I can lead you to the water, but I'm not going to force you to drink it. So yes, I believe that if you're successful, you kind of sort of obligated to go out and help out your own people.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with that. 100%. It's kind of like how I don't know if you guys remember this. Master P was in the news. I think it was last year or something. This was dealing with, or it might have been 2 years ago. The young little rapper Kodak Black or whatever. He was trying to mentor him, and help him. They both rich, you know what I'm saying? But even though, Master P is successful, he's been a successful millionaire for, many, many years. Um, he still, offers and works with the younger rappers that are coming in, try to mentor them, whether they listen or they don't. And just to get away from the rap thing, I also do the exact same thing. I mean, you should constantly give back. I mean, I consider myself a little successful. You know what I'm saying? I'm not no rich guy, but I consider myself successful, and I do my best to actually, mentor and help other young kids get into the technology fields. And so, I mean, it's something I've been doing for years before I even knew or put a title on it. You know what I'm saying? Where it was, mentoring. I never used that word. You know what I'm saying? I looked at it as I'm helping another brother out. You know what I'm saying? So I mean that should be in us all, in my opinion, instead of closing the door and locking it. You know what I'm saying? At least show people where the door at and leave it cracked a little bit. At least you could do that.
Exactly.
You
Exactly.
know.
Well, I mean, speaking on P, right? Shout out to Master P. He's if you ever met him in person, he's a real cool dude. Huge as hell, real cool dude. Um, he would always say that his initial startup money he got from his granddad. You know, and he was in the streets too, but his initial startup money he would get from his granddad. The thing what you said with Kodak Black. After that, you know what he said? He said, "I'm gonna start charging these dudes because they wasting time."
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, he did say that.
You know, so he was a person who actually, in some ways, inherited something, was able to create something off of what he inherited, and he also still gave out info and looked out for people. But and I salute him in every way because like if anybody knew about Master P, he's not a dude you want to cross for one.
Mm-hmm.
But more than that guy, he's a very stand-up individual. Like very, he will mop the floor in the building that he owns. Um, and that's not a joke. That's like real. It's not like real. It is real. So the reason why, when you said it, the reason I brought it up is this: when y'all saying, if somebody's successful, they should help out people, right? Not it's in a kind of like a obligation to help out the next. But on the flip side, when I bring up if you're unsuccessful, you owe somebody. Because if you're unsuccessful, not if you're unsuccessful and you did it, you messed yourself up and you messed up people around you. You should owe people just like if you are successful and people around you helped you. Because the unsuccessful people are the people that's really dragging us down.
Yeah, but what are you really gonna get from those people? I mean, other than I don't know, free labor, then that's slavery.
I mean, that's
and
Good.
I'm sorry to go that way, but
No,
yeah,
well,
like it's like if you're trying to, you have a issue, you're trying to stop drinking and stuff like that, and you're not gonna get advice for someone that still have a drinking problem, that's still going to Alcoholic Anonymous. You're gonna get to someone that's like, I've been there and done that, and I've been sober for 20 years, and I'm building myself up, and I'm went back to school, I'm having positive benefits. Like, we love as human beings, you have to see results, man. You
that's
know,
that's what I'm talking about, though. I'm
so
talking about
yeah.
I'm talking about old school results. Because
Hmm.
when y'all like it's like slavery, right?
Yeah.
When I was a kid, it was still technically in effect. If you broke somebody's window or something, then your ass might be cutting grass for a month.
mhm.
Yeah.
You as a child, you can't pay for it. Maybe even if your parents could pay for it, you was gonna work that debt. So you take it into consideration. The next time you're over there and you throw that baseball, you better not throw it at the window.
Right.
Like that, like that's part of the logic about it, because now we just letting people just throw baseballs through windows. Oh well, it's just hey man, he's never gonna be a pitcher. What? Say dog. That's the third window this week. You know how much these windows cost? Well, you gotta let that go. Normally, when you make the person work and work for what they destroyed, they learn how to respect other people's stuff.
So let me ask you this then, because I brought up, I've mentored people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've ran into situations where I've mentored somebody, helped them get an interview, recommended them to a job, got them in the door, and they embarrassed the hell out of me. So does that person owe me reparations
You
for
goddamn
me?
right.
Even
I
if
mean,
they successful.
I would never help this person again, but you know what I'm saying? I
Yeah.
mean, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
You know what? You know why I say
Well,
that? Because
hmm
if they used to do this in our community, and other communities still do this to a degree. If somebody gets you a job and you screw that up, you owe them, or your family owe them, because somebody is going to try to make it right. Like, look, because you're not the only person that went to bat for them. Somebody had to go to bat. You went to bat for them on your job. Somebody went to bat for them for you to even do it. That's how it normally used to work.
hmm
So
Mhm.
the person that's the in between to be like, listen, I messed that up. I owe you for that. They wind up paying back, and then they'll give that person hell who did it. They probably wouldn't bring them around you no more, but that person was gonna pay somebody. And you was gonna, somebody's gonna owe you a favor or whatever. You could call a person like, yo, I need this done. And they be like, look, I already owe you, say no more. So yeah, absolutely. I would have halfway got fired. I'd have slapped the shit out of him in the parking lot.
You ever embarrass me again?
Because I mean, for me, that's that's the elephant in the room. Like, we have no consequences for screw ups.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I definitely get what y'all saying. You know what I'm saying? But I just think we in my, like Gab was talking in the spiritual sense.
hmm
If you ain't right inside, everything you create outside is going to be horrible. And to be right inside, you gotta actually pay your debts. We say criminals pay their debt to society.
Mm.
You see, they pay for a lifetime. You know, and sometimes that is completely unfair. But they pay their debt to society. So a screw up need to pay their debt to society. Like, go ahead.
So L.A.R, let me ask you this, man. Realistically, how can what would you do for that individual to pay, their respect to society? I'm talking like a grown person. I know we can discipline children, like, okay, yeah, you didn't do your chores, go ahead and give them the belt, all that type of stuff, but as far as like a grown man that's just constantly making impulsive decisions, and like he said, that prime example, hey, he bears him at this restaurant, whatever. Should he like bust tables for free? Should he like, is this some type of work labor? Or that's what I'm trying to figure out, like,
Wait,
what
wait,
really.
wait. I missed the part about he did what at the restaurant.
No, I'm talking about. I'm just using an example. Text said about he tried to give him a job, he embarrassed him. So I was just trying to figure out, like, in that situation, should you have that individual that was disrespectful? Should he like bust tables for free, or should he, you know what I'm saying, like, what
For me personally,
yeah.
you come to my house, you cut my grass, you wash my goddamn car, and do the tires too, and it better be right. It better be spit. You owe me something, because guess what? You don't get to walk like this. This is the part that nobody gets to walk away. I think that is a problem with society when we got people who get to walk away. Because when you walk away, you begin to do it everywhere you go. It's a quitter's mentality.
Yeah.
I fucked that up. That's no big deal. I'm gone. I fucked it. Because what winds up happening with people who mess up like that, normally they mess up everywhere they go, and they wind up in the very spots that they started from, and you see them all over again.
Yeah, and I agree, man. I paid for that situation as well. I mean, nobody after that situation happened that I recommended while I was working at that company. They never called any of them in anymore, and I felt so bad. Like it just made me look so bad. You know what I'm saying?
So,
But hey, I appreciate it, L.A.R. I'm gonna have to hop off,
all
man.
right, okay,
I'm
cool. Because I was about to say something to what you just said. Go ahead.
yeah. All right,
But
peace, man.
take care, bro. Take care.
Yeah.
That's the interesting thing, even about jobs. They want reparations. No. Who you want somebody? No. You owe us for the last time. You will never get a shot. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how people operate. And then you got to go out of your way to, do this, that, and the third. Like that becomes an issue for me. Super high tripping about over here. But okay, like, the women, like, and even the women complain about men cheating on them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So women feel old because they got cheated on, right?
Yes.
Men complain about getting used.
Yeah.
And men feel old because they were used.
Oh, I get what you're saying. Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I get what you're saying on that. Yeah.
so it's like, but what we keep doing, like, you know how we do. Oh, a man gonna cheat. And what men gonna do? Well, we're gonna have a problem forever and a day if you keep saying this publicly.
Or they, men be talking about, so men be like, oh, she stood me on this day, she gonna have to pay for my time.
Right. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Everybody want their reparations. You gotta pay me in some way, shape, form, or fashion.
It's just weird because I see where you're going, but it's just weird because I kind of look at it as as a adolescence, or as a young person type of point of view, like someone that's like 12, 11, 10 years old, living in a mama house type stuff. They didn't do what they're supposed to do. So it's kind of like, putting it's kind of hard, putting like older people and adults into this position. But I mean, it kind of makes sense.
Like, I mean, I definitely get what y'all are saying.
Yeah.
But this is part, like, I'm just saying, you gotta, like Jacqueline told me, we gotta set a standard, because we used to have, like, a standard came with, you violate, we demonstrate. See, when it comes to kicking ass, we understand reparations. You violate, we demonstrate.
Oh yeah.
But when it comes to playing somebody, it's like, oh, that's not a big deal. Like, yeah, that's a big deal, yo. Like, that's a really big deal. Because I laugh, and sometimes I joke about shit like this. Like, even in the manosphere, if a guy say, you know what, woman, I'm gonna be your reparations. I'm gonna do all the things. I'm gonna make up for all these bad men in your life. Now, if she still act out of pocket, you know, at that particular point, I'm about to Goldberg spirit this bitch. She owe me. She about to get the jackhammer right on the coffee table. It's not about, it's about to go down. You know?
Right.
Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, right? She feel like, you owe me. So yeah, this I'm like, come on, what we gonna do? Like Faith owe us all some food. She over there bullshit. You
Give
know?
you some kicks, right?
Yeah.
Point: do we separate growing pains from actual damages? Great pain and suffering and harms the bounce back.
Interesting question.
Do we separate growing pains from actual damages that create pain? So that's like I said, it goes back to what I was saying before. I mean, it's one of those reasons. Psychologically, a lot of people do things, based on what they're seeing or their product, their environment, and that kind of creates impulsive decision making.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of, and because we look at the result of it. You're like, okay, well, yeah, we in the back in the day, you were abused, you were neglected, you were bullied, but you should still, because you made a emotional decision that jeopardized my life. You should still be punished for what you have done. And I just think if we consider to have that type of mindset instead of bringing up the solution, it's not I guess it's sort of like letting it slide, but it's more in a way like, hey, I'm gonna give you some help. I'm not gonna punish you, but I'm gonna give you some help, and I'm trying to figure out the root of your problem. That's a better solution to me, and I feel like that's gonna be a better way to create more successful relationships with one another. You get what I'm saying? Like, instead of just saying, "Oh, you did this. Oh no, you're gonna do this now." Instead of just figuring like, "Okay, why did this individual act this way? Why did this individual is being disrespectful? What is going on?" It's a reason behind every single emotion, every decision making that an individual does. And I truly solely believe that.
I'm gonna get a little sentimental, okay? I'm not finna cry. I'm finna this Oprah. What I'm finna do is, I would say, one of the best things in the world is, just as a man, is being able to do the right thing, even when it costs you the most, and people can respect it. When I'm dead wrong, and I come to, because some of us got to get to the point where we understand that we're wrong. You know what I'm saying? I might, like, there have been times I've been wrong in life and I didn't know I was wrong because of my mind state at the time. So when some time passed and I grew up a little bit and I understood a different person's perspective or the situation, then I went back to that person and I was like, listen, now I see what was wrong then. Here's my apology. But when I apologize to somebody, I don't just apologize. Here's my apology. What can I do to make amends?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, a lot of times when you actually come to make amends, you have to take that what you on the chin. That when you go there, it might cost you something. If you there to make amends, it's gonna cost you something. So accept that it's gonna cost you something. You might not know what, but it will. But the relationship between you and that person grows exponentially, because now that person knows, okay, if I get burned by this person, they're not just going to let me burn. So guess what? I'm going to have their back regardless. And it works vice versa. Like in our community, we're not doing that no more. We just out to get each other. I mean, it comes across like we out to get each other. I don't think we always out to get each other. I just think it's a situation where, you know, we're in a situation where we do each other wrong, and we say something like, God knew my heart. Oh, that was a long time ago. Well, if God know your heart and that was a long time ago, why that person still don't mess with you?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because you never made amends.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? But that, you know, that was my point.
Yeah.
I'm long-winded sometimes.
Oh, I agree. It's your show. I agree, man. I just want to appreciate you having me on here, just like, you know, explain my thoughts on certain things, man. Thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem, man. You gotta go, fam. I anytime though. Like when I go do this stuff, I just say it's open. I'm not, you know what I'm saying? And if you disagree, you disagree. I'm not gonna trip on that either. That's, you know, I'm a person who understands.
Yeah, because I was like, I am in the manosphere. That could just boot me out.
Man, I'm not with all that shit. I'm not that. Look, you know, one of the things I say, you got to let people talk. Yeah. Sometimes you got to let people talk because they crazy as hell. So you let people know, see, crazy shit exists. But other times you got to you let people talk because you can learn something. Because sometimes, you know, you learn when you take you hear a different perspective, you sit on it a little bit, you learn a little bit. You're like, you know what, I can, you know, I could put that in the mix. You know what I mean?
True.
That's what that is.
Yeah. Well, all right, man. Well, L.A.R, I'm about to get out of here, man. So take care. Peace to everyone in the chat.
You got it. Catch you later.
All right, brother.
All right. Now it's an hour and 37 minutes. My bedtime is at 10 because I got a curfew because I got to be up at 5. So by faith, you owe us food. But it's a few other ones I wanted to talk about, and then I'm gonna get out of here. You know, education. You know, do we owe each other reparations in education? And the reason I ask that is because I think about college education in general, high school, all that. People who are in their 60s, 50s, their cost of education was significantly lower than this one. Significant. So when they say I went to school, I'm educated, I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, ask them how much they paid for their education. It ain't nowhere near what you paying now. So, you know, when people say things like, you know, I want the best, our best and brightest to come through, of the educated people who got educated, and they were educated in an era where it didn't cost a $1 billion, do they owe some type of reparations as far as, let me give you the cliff notes to this industry? Because I've learned I've gotten an education that's cheaper. I've watched all these systems change over the years. So I'm so educated in these things. I'm going to give you everything you need to know in this little notebook. My 25, 30 years worth of experience, all you need to know is this. You need to know this, and this pretty much covers everything. So now when you go into the future, you understand where everything comes from. Do we owe each other reparations in that? Because when we talk about information, we're talking about passing on information, right? And you got to super high. You know, do we owe each other that? Because so when I sit down and I talk to my son about things, I talk to him about the cost of school. Like I'm like, you know what? It's going to cost you if you in state one way. It's going to cost you if you out of state another way. You know, personally, if I was you, I'll probably do this online. Because then you could work, you can live your life, get a degree from an actual university. My mother is in college right now, in a university that is nowhere near the city and state that she's in. And, you know, and that's the cost of education. Do we owe each other that? Like, you know, do I owe my child a different education in the sense of, okay, man, look, I might not, you can't go to this school, but if you can get into this school, you know, their online program, I got you covered. Because this one costs of $1 billion. I probably can't afford that one, but this one, blah, blah, blah. And then there you go. You know, because we want these kids to be smart, but we want them to be smart on student loans. So do we owe our children reparations for having them have these student loan debts? Do we owe these kids something? You know, now they got 40, 60, you know, 40, 60, 80, 100, $200,000 worth of debt because we told them to go to school and get an education, and now they can't get a house because they're so far in debt that they can't afford a mortgage because they add on your college, your student loans with your mortgage payments now. That's part of the equation. So do you owe these kids? And we don't take that into consideration. That's why for years I've talked about, I see more apartment complexes coming up than subdivisions. The subdivisions, you know, have 200 houses. You know, so you get a subdivision, couple hundred houses. Then you have 5, 6 apartment complexes that house thousands of people. You know, 5 or 6, maybe somewhere between 1,500 to 1,800 people, not 2,000. Depends on how big the complex is, though. So do we owe each other for that? You know what I'm saying? Some student loan debt can be forgiven, but the vast majority of it can't. You know, I feel you. Why you gotta know how old my son is, Vulnerable? He's a teenager. Mind your business. I was just at a baby shower today. Oh, and I'm gonna put this out into the universe. I was at a baby shower earlier today, a good friend of mine. And I forgot this about her. You know, she's not married, single mother, blah, blah, blah. But this particular woman had medical issues to the point where they didn't think she would ever have children. She had lost numerous babies. Numerous. Like, you know, the last one before this one, she was hospitalized. I didn't know why she was hospitalized at the time. I thought she had like fibroids, like a just big one that had to be leaked. But she was 7 months pregnant, had a miscarriage, and she lost 45 pounds of blood, almost died. She's gonna have a baby in the next week and a half. And I can't sit here and I was talking to her, and I was and she was like, look, I'm old. I want to have as many kids as possible, because for her, it's a miracle for her to even have a kid. So when it comes to talking about single mothers, I know she's an anomaly, but I got to put that there are people like that on the table, because I know other people like that too. She's not the only person like that I know, but she is in the minority of the minority. But so some of these single mothers are actually women who, against all odds, are just trying to be a mother, not trying to get child support. So, you know, for a guy who wrote a book on that stuff, I gotta say that. But so, you know, and I owe her reparations for a little bit of respect for that, because let's be honest, like, that don't happen a lot, you know. But that's what it is. Nah, I don't know all that cussing I be doing. I don't know about that, fam. You know, that's why the tiny cool. Yeah, I feel you on that, Vulnerable. You know, so we kind of covered love and gender and all that business, all that. So now I'm gonna cover some sleep. I thank y'all for rocking with me. Came on twice today. Who knew? It was just on my mind. So I hope this was productive for y'all. I hope whoever's live right now, I hope y'all rocking with them and go have them and have a good night. So y'all take care of yourselves. God bless. Peace.